three-peat. This was the 72-win team. This was the first title Jordan had won since his father had been killed, and it happened on Father's Day, which is why you might remember the iconic image of him lying on the floor in the locker room afterwards crying. This obviously is a moment of celebration later, but his initial reaction was overwhelmingly emotional. Again, this was the 72-10 team whose moniker was, "It don't mean a thing if you don't get that ring." And Alan, there are many people who believe this was the single greatest NBA team of all time.
Yeah, and you can see with all the different stars on it. In that game, Dennis Rodman, you see him right here. Dennis Rodman was an absolute monster on the board. Did he get 20 rebounds in that game? It was like 19, 20 rebounds. He was a monster, and I don't think he gets enough credit for the impact he had on that great team.
Did anybody miss the fact that Father's Day had no NBA games yesterday?
That was weird.
It was horrible.
Yeah, that was weird.
Nobody else did?
I was at a college graduation. I'm just barely holding it together here. I don't know what happened this week.
But The Last Dance showed us that we actually heard Jordan on the floor in the trainer's room, clutching the ball, crying, and you could just really hear it all come out. That was, in The Last Dance, such a compelling scene.
You remember that team, the 96?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, they were, again, you watched them dominate every single night.
Yep.
And that was the best part about that team is like every single night they showed up, they sold out wherever they went.
Yes.
But they put on a performance for you no matter where they were at any time.
They were up 3-0 on Seattle in that final, and then the Sonics won 2 games to make it a Game 6, and it's the reason the Bulls won it back in Chicago. Anyway, from Chicago to New York, where the Knicks are planning to meet with former Kings coach Mike Brown and former Grizzlies coach Taylor Jenkins for their vacant head coaching job. This will mark the first stage of formal interviews for that job. Brown interviewed for it in 2020, made a strong impression before the Knicks decided to hire Tom Thibodeau. Now, merely conducting interviews is a step in the right direction for the Knicks. They had previously been denied permission by teams to speak to Jason Kidd and Ime Udoka and Chris Finch and Quinn Snyder and Billy Donovan. And before we dive into who they should hire, I did see this, again, I was this weekend quite a busy one for me, but I did see that you had made some comments that I wanted you to share here with our audience if you could. As an NBA head coach, and I will remind everyone, literally a lifer. Your dad was a coach in the league forever, so you grew up in this. The frustration I think you were voicing on behalf of NBA coaches with how dispensable it feels like the position has become.
Yeah, I mean, first off, I want to say, like, we have the greatest jobs on the planet if you're involved in basketball, right? If you're involved in the NBA, our jobs are phenomenal. So I don't want to sound like I'm up here complaining or, upset about the jobs that we have. I won't do that. But what I do want to do is make sure we continue to put respect on the name of coach in the NBA. And we have some extremely talented people who do phenomenal jobs. But when you look at what happened to Taylor, you look at what happened in Denver, things that happened down the stretch, it just seems to me that there's a lack of respect for what coaches bring. Coaches bring leadership. Coaches bring respect. Coaches bring discipline. They bring organization. They're the ones who help build culture and what is sustained success. And when you are inconsistent with your coaches and you decide to move off of them more quickly, like, that's where your team is going to be up and down. Like, you have to have consistency. And if you hire the right guy, you believe in the right guy, when things get tough, you don't punt the right guy. You stand behind the right guy, you show support, and you allow him to carry on doing the job that he's been doing for you.
I'm so glad that you shared that here. Again, Mike Malone won the championship a couple of years ago. He's fired. Tom Thibodeau just took the New York Knicks further than they'd been in a quarter of a century. He's fired. Now, these are individual circumstances, and in each individual case, there may very well be legitimate reasons. But I think it is inarguable that the position of head coach in the NBA has been to some degree disrespected in the last generation or so, as the players have become, their voices have become so much more powerful within organizations.
To his point, you also need to have the right front office and the right owner that has a backbone to say, hey, I know what you guys think you may want, but this is what you need. And that's not in every organization, JB.
No, courage matters. And that's what I think a lot of times is, like, the easy thing to do is fire the coach. Right? The fans are yelling, and there's a lot of organizations, as sad as they may sound, live by the motto that perception is reality. As basketball coaches, we live by the idea that reality is reality, and basketball reality is the job that we do every single day.
Can I quickly point out the two places that they do value coaching? San Antonio, Miami. How have those franchises worked over the last 25 years?
Yeah, they've done
two of the most successful.
What Pat Riley had to back Eric Spoelstra. Remember that.
That's the point.
When LeBron G. Wade did exactly.
That's what you do.
Exactly.
And no matter who the circumstances are, look, I mean, I get it in football all the time. I hear the football coaches say all the time, if the players are looking over your shoulder at anybody else, you're done before you even begin. In basketball, the players just simply are more powerful than the coaches in almost every circumstance, and that creates a dynamic that has made this what it is.
And if you look at it, the teams that are in the finals now, they trust in Rick Carlisle. Mark was their G League coach, right? And Sam Presti made the decision to elevate him, build through, you know, the ups and downs of what it was going to take to get to where they are. Now both those teams are in the final. Hire the right guy, consistency matters.
Very well said. I'm glad we had that conversation, even if it's a bit off track, because it feels important. And when I read your comments, I was moved by them. Okay, that said, the Knicks are currently the only vacancy in the league. Who should they hire?
Well, look, I still think that Jason Kidd is the right target. I think that Jalen Brunson has a good affiliation with Jason Kidd. I know that the report says the Mavericks have denied. I think that sometimes the more time you let pass, other things could be figured out. I can leave that up to the public to try to dig deeper into what that means. But I think also attracting the right other talent is a decision that front office has to make when they're bringing on the next head coach as well. That's imperative.
What do you think of the Knicks situation, Alan? Again, you're very close to it.
Yeah, again, you got to start the process, so you start interviewing the coaches that are available to you that you don't have to ask permission to interview, and you can see right away they're going for experienced coaches right out of the gate. Mike Brown, obviously, Taylor Jenkins. Let's talk about another guy that helped the culture there in Memphis. But I also, with Jay, I would not completely give up on coaches that are currently under contract. I would still wait out that process a little more.
So the names that we've heard, you're saying the no's, not always a permanent no.
It's the initial no. What now has to happen is maybe the coach has to say, hang on a second.
You just don't ask the girl you like out one time. You know what I mean? You got to be a little. Hey, I'm here today.
Come back with flowers. You never know what happens.
It's a long game, marathon, not a sprint, Grinny.
I do want to point out, like, let's play the Magic thing really quickly, because I think it is worth pointing out. There is a perception. I don't know the insides of it. Others know it better than I do. That the Knicks players didn't like playing for Tom Thibodeau, that he had worn thin, whatever the case may be, and that it was a player-led change. Well, we had Magic Johnson on the show on Thursday, and this is what he said about who now gets the pressure in New York.
The players wanted him gone. There's a lot of pressure on them players next season, because now if you fire the coach, and this is what you wanted, now you got to step up. All the excuses are gone now. Next season, Brunson, if Karl Anthony Towns comes back, all you guys, the pressure's on them.
100%. I thought that was an important point, worth making. We'll see what winds up happening. Right. We'll save time to get back to that a little bit. But we do have Game 5 of the NBA Finals tonight. Let's play a game of more or less. The numbers courtesy of ESPN Bet Sportsbook. Here we go. Alan. SGA, the total is 33.5 tonight. Which way do we go?
I'm going more. This is the time now. You're at home. It's time to take that series under control. He showed you at the end of Game 4 that they found something, that pick and roll with he and Jay Will.
Yes, that play right there was both a push-off and a walk.
Another push-off.
And
did we talk about repping?
More on 34. All right, Tyrese Halliburton, also Allen, sorry, 25.5 combined points and assists for Tyrese Halliburton, more or less.
I'm going to go less. I don't feel like, first of all, number one, scoring is not really the first thing for him. He did way too much ISO at the end of that game. He's going to try to facilitate, not score nearly as much.
All right, and then Allen, also you for Chet Holmgren, 15.5 points for the big fella.
You need more. He's got to have another 20-plus game. He's got to continue being aggressive. I think if they're going to take this series, while SGA is going to be your finals MVP, you got to get one big game out of Chet Holmgren. Not just a 2010. I mean a big game. This could be the one.
Those are Allen's picks, and if you like them, we've made them a parlay. They're put together at plus 520. The ESPN Bet Sportsbook app. Look for the more or less featured